afternoon, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining today's press conference with Auburn head coach Bryan Harsin. We'll let Coach make some opening comments, and then we'll take questions. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, first thing, just a little recap from the last game. Not a whole lot to talk about other than the fact I thought the defense played very good. I thought special teams had a couple units that had some of their best performances in the game, and then offensively we were just poor in that last one. So we went back, looked at it on Sunday, and made the corrections. Went out there and hit a few of those things that we had to do physically on the field, and then moved on to Mississippi State. So that's what our focus is this week. We're on to Mississippi State, on to a good football team, Coach Leach and his offense, and things that they can do on that side of the ball we're preparing for with the air raid. And I think we all know what they're capable of doing, throwing the ball over the place. So they've shown that. Got good players on the offensive side. Quarterback Rogers making plays, completing 75% of his passes. That's great. So he's doing well. Polk, their wide receiver, has got 71 catches, 6 TDs. Both their running backs are very good. You know, they do run the ball. I think it's a little misleading. You talk about throwing it, they do run it, and they run it well. And both those guys are a big part of their pass game and make plays. So defensively, fourth in the SEC. This defense is very good. So they've shown that. They play with a 3 down, and they'll give you some different looks, but I think they do a very good job of preparing their defense to go play against the different styles of offenses in the SEC. And guys that stand out, Emerson, their corner, very good player. Jet Johnson, 64 tackles. Their Mike linebacker has been very solid this season. And then Tyrus Wheat has got 4 sacks, an INT, 2 pass breakups. So one of their other linebackers as well. So he's playing very good. Special teams are solid all the way around. These guys are aggressive. They can make plays on special teams. And so all 3 phases, as we've gotten into watching these guys play, they're very good. They're talented, and you know they've done some really good things this year, and they played good teams. They played some close games. I know the last one they just played in was close, and I know this is their last road game for their team this season. So it's really about us, what we have to do as far as getting ourselves prepared, focusing on our execution day in and day out, the consistency that we have to play good football on Saturday, and making sure that everybody on this team and on this staff is capable and able to do that and is focused on that each and every day. So when we go play, all right, we want to see those things show up more consistently on game day. So with that, questions?
Michael Giddens.
Coach, you've got 6 straight quarters without an offensive touchdown. After being able to watch the tape from Saturday, besides just execution, what things are you looking to get corrected in practice headed into Mississippi State?
Yeah, well, we know we have to correct. And, you know, I might as well just invite the Mississippi State's defensive staff in here if I told you all those things. One is we got to score touchdowns. I mean, 6 quarters and no touchdowns. That's pretty telling. That's not, you know, what we're trying to accomplish on the offensive side. So we need to have better plays. We need to have better play calls. We need to have opportunities to score and create those on the offensive side. So we got to make plays. And, you know, we got to be a whole lot better. You know, I thought 2 phases on Saturday against A&M played pretty good. And, you know, offensively we did not. So that's got to be corrected. And, you know, the players on that side of the ball, the coaching staff, it's pretty obvious, you know, that we need to score touchdowns in order to win games. And, you know, at the end of the day, we haven't done that well enough. We have another opportunity this week to go work on that and create that. Those things have to happen every single day for us. What I know about our team and our offense in particular, it doesn't just happen on Saturday. That's what I know. So if it's emphasized every day, if it's focused every day, if it's executed every day, then we'll have a lot better opportunity to not be, you know, at the very bottom and not scoring points on the offensive side. So a lot of work to be done, and if we're going to win these remaining games that we have a chance to play in, if we're going to beat Mississippi State, you got to score touchdowns at the end of the day. So, to your question in particular, there's some really specific things that I don't want to get into that are really a focus on this team. But we all know what we saw on Saturday. That's not going to get it done, and we know that. We knew that going into the game. We've known that the entire season, and we have to be good enough to correct that at the end of the day, and that's the challenge. So everybody has a job and a responsibility. In order to make that happen, you got to do your job, and those things have to show up on game day so we can win games.
Jordan Hill.
Bryan, you mentioned Will Rogers a few minutes ago. I think he's third in the nation in passing yards. Just what has stood out to you about Will and what he's been able to do in Mike Leach's system this year?
I think all the quarterbacks in that system, that's what they do. They throw the ball.
And they do it well. And Coach Leach has always done a good job with his quarterbacks, but 75% completion. Just because you're throwing it doesn't mean you're going to have 75% completion. And so that's pretty darn good. What I do think of, and I haven't seen a ton of Rodgers. I've seen some. I'll dive into that a little bit more, but I've seen enough to know that he's a good player. I think he's a good decision maker. I think the guys around him are playing well. And obviously those guys are making catches and getting themselves open. And so, they've controlled the ball actually quite a bit too with this style of offense, and they've done a good job that way. So he's playing well, and he's doing a good job leading that offense, and those guys around him are playing well. So, we have to find a way to play really good defense against a quarterback like him. We got to be consistent. We got to be in the right position at the right time. And if we get a chance to make a play on the ball, we got to make a play. So, it's going to be a test for our defense, no question, just with how they're playing and the things that they do.
Tom Green.
Hey, Bryan. I know after the game you said you wanted to kind of go back and watch the film before you assess the play at quarterback. But now that you have a chance, just what did you make of Bo's performance? And I guess what's the message to him after a game like that, after he'd shown so much progress over the prior month?
Well, the message for everybody and any particular player that doesn't have their best game, it's just consistency. That's the quest, I think, for everybody in things that we do. Certainly as a performer, in any sport, how can you be consistent? You can reach a certain level. How do you do it again? That's really the mystery in I think in sports and with everybody is how do you find that consistency? And obviously people that do that, that's why great athletes are in the position that they're in, why they win championships and why they become legends is because of the consistency that they show. And so I think for everybody, you're always looking for that. And Bo, he's capable of it. He didn't have his best game, obviously. There were things and reasons why. It's not always just on that one particular position. And I've said that before. I think the quarterback gets way too much credit and way too much blame. And I still believe that. And so, it's a matter of going back and making sure that one, he's playing better. Two, the guys around him are playing better. We have a better plan. And we execute those things more consistently throughout the week of practice. So come game time, we're able to execute it when the game is going fast and you're playing against a good team, which A&M's a good team. I don't want to take anything away from who they are. Their defense is very good, and those guys played fast. Well, we can play fast too, and you got to be able to do that through 4 quarters. And if you go back and really think about that game, it was 3-3 all the way into the third quarter. The third quarter is 3-3. It's not like it's 20-0. We're in the game. It's not going well as far as from an execution standpoint, but the game was tied. And, neither side was very impressive on the offensive side of the ball. And, you gotta be able to overcome that. You gotta be able to find a way to put points on the board and overcome some of the adversity, and everything didn't go, as planned. And that goes for everybody. And we just weren't able to do that. And A&M did, and that's why they won the game. So, That's the message. The message is, all right, how do we now learn from this? And when we get back into a situation like that again, which we will be, there'll be some adversity, there'll be things that don't go our way. How do we get right back into it and go focus on the task at hand and go execute like we need to? Because to me, it's, there's emotions in the game, but we all have jobs to do, and we got to go out there and execute those jobs. You got 11 guys, you got to do your 1/11th, and sometimes it doesn't go your way. And as a quarterback, what it comes down to is decision making. It didn't work. Make a great decision. If we have to punt, play defense, we'll keep doing that until we can finally get a little bit of a spark and get things going. The one thing about our offense that we did have early in that game, and a lot of that game, is we had good field position. Our defense created really good field position for us. We were at midfield a lot in that game, and we didn't take advantage of it. We didn't find ways to get down closer to the end zone and put points on the board, or find ways to score. So, that's lesson learned. I mean, that's kind of football 101, but you got to make it, again, an obvious example from the game for everybody that when we're in these positions, like, we got to score. The percentages go up for an offense to be able to put points on the board, and we got to be able to do that.
Bill Cameron.
Coach, from early on, Bo was sprinting right, and I'm sure that part of that is because of the concern for their push up the middle, but doesn't that really sort of limit the ability to throw back? I know a couple of times he threw back across and completed some passes back to his left, but just talk about that, because it sort of seems like it gives a very narrow window to throw into.
What are you asking? Are you saying that he just ran right, or they forced him right, or?
No, I said I assume that's because of the concern from the push up the middle, but I just wondered about the concern for sort of having a narrow window to throw into there when he's having to roll or sprint full speed.
Yeah, well, that's not ideal. I mean, you don't want to have to – some of the plays that we had him moving on were designed to actually do that. Now, the other ones where he's moving from the pocket, you're right. They got push up the middle, and he was escaping. And, when you're running – really as fast as you can, it's hard to complete a pass full speed. You got to be able to have a chance to kind of settle down and throttle down and make a good throw. But that's that was what A&M was doing in a couple of those plays, as they created the pressure, all right, and they were also trailing and chasing and trying to go get him, where he had to run, kind of just as fast as he could and try to make a play in those situations. That's going to happen in a game, though. That's not something that you don't anticipate against, some type of pressure. They're going to bring some pressure, make the quarterback escape. And when you do, and you got a guy like Bo, now the drawback of that for a defense is Bo can stick his foot in the ground and go run it for 15, 20, 30 yards as well. And so, there was a couple times that we had a chance to do that, and a couple times they played it really well. But, we also had some clean pockets, chances to throw it, and then opportunities in there as well where we could have picked some blitzes up and we didn't pick them up. And, that's the thing that's a little misleading for the quarterbacks, is when you get somebody right in your face and the O-line's supposed to slow them down, and it looks like, you're just running out of there. Well, the guys up front got to do their job too. And, there was enough of that. So, all the way around on the offensive side, it's not any one player in particular. It's everybody, execution, and the whole plan of just making sure that, we're going to be better at those things moving forward.
Brian Matthews.
Yes, Brian, just wanted to ask you about how Ladarius Tennyson performed stepping in for an injured teammate against Texas A&M.
Yeah, Tennyson played hard. He did some really good things. He had the penalty on special teams that he shouldn't have hit the returner. We had a great field position. Other than that, he ran down, made a great play on kickoff. He and Sean Shivers, so two guys running down. We tackled their returner at the 10-yard line. Tennyson had a great play. They threw a little bob screen, a little bubble screen out to the right, and he goes right around the blockers, makes the tackle. So he did, in my opinion, he did some really good things. And, one of the things when you play more, maybe some of those little penalties, things don't happen as much because you have just more reps. You have more experience out there. But he showed that he can play physical. He showed that he can play fast. He showed that he's going to go out there and be a guy that gives great effort. We clean up a couple decisions that he had. But when you're playing hard like that, sometimes things happen. I'll take the relentless effort, from a guy out there playing fast, and he did a good job stepping up. Those guys with Zion out, that's a lot of reps, that's a lot of game time experience that we didn't have back there. And like I said before, neither defense gave up a touchdown. So our defense, you look at the score of the game, and our defense played well. We just didn't have all three phases playing together. But there were some good things that the defense did, and I thought we had a good plan, and I thought they had a few explosive plays. We got to eliminate that. But other than that, the defense, I thought, did some good things.
Nebias Wilborn.
Hey, Brian, how's it going today, man?
Good. How are you?
Man, I'm good, man. Blessed out of the favorite. I can't complain. Thanks for the time as always. All right, during the game, there was a point where Texas A&M had 2 pre-snap penalties. On TV, they mentioned that it's possible that Auburn could have been making sounds on defense. And after the game, Jimbo Fisher basically mentioned that it's possible that Auburn could have been simulating the snap count. Do you have any comment on from the stuff from CBS or the stuff from Jimbo?
Yeah.
And forgive me for having that.
No, that's the first I've heard it. It just sounds like a court case. It's possible. No, I didn't hear that. I didn't. I don't think that's anything that our defense was out there trying to do. I don't even know if they know the snap count. If our guys are talking, they're talking to each other. And sometimes, I know on the first one watching it, I know their offense was pointing at our guys. Then they had one right again on the second play, back-to-back. I think it was their left tackle. And I think he moved and just put his head down. Usually when a guy on offense moves and just drops his head, it's on him. All right, you just know, and most of the time, offensive linemen, they don't really sell it very well. Like, if they made the mistake, they just acknowledge it. That's most of their nature. Just take it, accept it. They move the ball back. And but no, I mean, that was even the environment there for when their offense was on the field, there's a loud hum in that stadium. So that's the first I heard of that either way. But no, I don't think that's anything from our side.
Jason, follow up.
Okay.
So would you say that's something you guys teach, and also is that just gamesmanship?
Yeah, here's the thing. Being an offensive coach now, I don't think really there's a lot of defenses that teach that at all. I mean, that's something, everyone's like, oh, he clapped, he said the cadence, all that. I mean, there's been maybe 1 or 2 times in my whole career that somebody on the other side, and probably because the player just did it on his own, like through the game, just heard your cadence and said whatever. But I've been around coaches that are like, we're going to go out there and use their snap count for what we do. If guys do that, it doesn't last long. Officials are on that. I think the officials actually do a pretty good job. If you're a team that claps and the defense goes out there and claps and tries to draw you off sides or tries to use your verbal cadence in there, for the most part, the officials are pretty good about that. And I don't really ever see that being a big factor. So I think when that stuff happens, everybody just feels like that, but I don't think it actually goes on very often.
Jason Caldwell.
Ryan, you talked about, Texas A&M having explosive play. You guys did not have any of those on Saturday. Is that a kind of a combination of everything involved, quarterback, wide receiver, O-line? Was it kind of everything that went into that lack of explosive plays in the passing game?
Yeah. Everything that went into that, exactly. We were not trying to not have explosive plays, and they had a lot more than we did. Now, like I said before, neither team scored, but they had explosive plays. We didn't, and we got to find ways to create those. I think every offense would say that, but it wasn't happening. And we stayed, like I said, we had good field position. We stayed kind of midfield, and you got to be able to get yourself in a position in the red zone to score. Explosive plays can help with that, but that doesn't have to just come off of a play call. That can come from players too, breaking a tackle, getting out in the open space. So I think when you see explosive plays, you see guys that are tackle breakers, and then you see guys that are explosive and get a one-on-one, and they win the one-on-one in that situation. That's where a lot of your explosive plays come from, and we did not have that. We didn't manufacture it, and it didn't come from really any of our players to make that happen. And those things have to happen. Those things have got to show up in games, and explosive plays are a big part of offense success. So you're trying to get them. Defenses are trying to eliminate them. Those things show up every game.
Last question is from Philip Marshall.
Bryan, I think your record right now is the best of any first-year coach in the Power Five. How difficult is it when you're putting a new scheme in, both sides of the ball, players you still haven't known for a year? What are the challenges to doing that, and especially at a time when maybe things go off track a little bit?
Sure.
I think every year, if you look at your team in a perfect world, you lose a quarter of your team and you bring in a quarter of your team. Right? That's kind of how it should work. Your seniors, if you had a perfect model, the seniors all leave, freshmen all come in, and your juniors become seniors and so on. So your team's always changing. And now with recruiting, the transfer portal, it's always going to be changing. So I think it's, one, we've been with our players long enough now for them and everybody to know what it is we're trying to accomplish. So that's one thing. And the challenge is doing the same things that work day after day, and the continuation of working to be successful, that becomes the challenge. And some of that, there's a little bit of boredom to some of that I think disciplined people and focused individuals understand that that's necessary to continue to keep working on the things that really make a difference in a game. And some guys, it's constant just, entertainment. And they can lose track and lose focus on certain things. So that's the difficulty there, is just who are the people that can sustain that level of focus day in and day out to improve. And, we should be able to do a better job of that. We play a different opponent every single week. It's a new challenge every single week, but the fundamentals, for the most part, stay the same, and that's really what we're working on right now. And that goes for staff, it goes for players. That's a mindset I think an individual has. That's a mentality that a team has. And new or not, we know what the goal is. We know the expectations every single week is to play really good football and do things that we have talked about throughout the week, and have that show up on game day. So, everybody that's a part of this program right now, that new or not, how long we've been here or not, that should be understood. And it's a matter of how well we continue to keep emphasizing that with our staff and making sure that the players and everybody understands the importance of it. So that's the challenge every year. It's really the challenge every day, and I don't see that changing. A year from now, 2 years from now, that's always going to be the challenge for everybody. I think that's a challenge for anybody not in football, but just, even their own lives and jobs and all that. You want to be great at something, there's a level of focus and discipline you have to have every single day, and focus on the things that matter in order to keep improving. And that's always going to be the challenge. Now, better people with the right mindset, you get the right people in here, that process becomes a little bit easier because they're already driven to do those things. And that's the challenge. You bring in not just people, but the right people that want to achieve that, and that becomes more of an identity of your team. those are the things that we're working on now.
All right, Coach. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you.